open ko na po ang room.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of Counting the Costs. I am CLRG's Rafael Montes Jr. Thank you for spending your quarantine afternoon with us as we follow the developments of the implementation of the Supreme Court's ruling on the just share of local governments in national taxes, more commonly referred to as the Mandanas ruling. We are live on Zoom and CLRG's YouTube channel, and this is the first episode to be live streamed on Facebook. Our previous episodes are, and this episode will be, available on our COC podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Coming up in the next 90 minutes, we will be speaking to the Department of Social Welfare and Development and the League of Municipalities about the effects of this great reallocation of resources on social welfare programs, projects, and activities. But before that, here is a message from the Dean of the UP National College of Public Administration and Governance, Professor Dan Sagil.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Welcome po sa ika-4 na yugto ng webinar talk show on the Mandanas Ruling hosted by the Center for Local and Regional Governance of the National College of Public Administration and Governance. The focus of our webinar today is fiscal, functional, and capacity implications of fully devolved social welfare services when full devolution takes place. I would like to start by wishing you and your families my best for your health and safety. I would like to express my gratitude to the Assistant Secretary for Policy and Plans of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Ms. Jocelyn Niwane, and Barcelona Sorsogon Mayor, Attorney Cynthia Palcotelo Cortez, for accepting our invitation as resource speakers in this webinar. Likewise po, my gratitude also to Director Alice Celestino and the staff of the Center for Local and Regional Governance for hosting this event. I am very happy for your continuous hosting of this kind of exercise to share knowledge and experiences in managing public affairs at the local level and keeping the college in public affairs conversation. Webinars such as this provide us an opportunity to learn, share, and create ideas and ignite motivation. The benefits in joining this webinar may differ for each of us, but through this exercise, we continue to expand our professional and personal development and are provided with information that we may not be able to generate internally from within our organizations. The knowledge and experiences we learn from others help us make well-informed decisions about policies, programs, and projects by putting the best available evidence. LGUs are well situated to respond to challenges at the community level. With the Mandanas ruling, local governments will have more resources to use to serve their constituents and improve the delivery of much needed basic services. However, we must be aware that LGUs should have the capacity and the capability to efficiently and effectively use these resources, especially with the additional responsibilities they will absorb. Sa madaling salita, ang mga pamahalaang lokal ay dapat maging handa sa mga bago at karagdagang gawain at responsibilidad sa mga darating na panahon. There are many questions as to the potential effects and impacts of the Mandanas ruling. We are aware of the increasing incidence and severity of natural disasters that are leaving more people vulnerable each year, particularly the poor and the marginalized. Human vulnerability to natural hazards is worsened by ongoing environmental degradation and high population densities in exposed areas. Increasing population also increases demand for government services. The ongoing pandemic reduces the capacity of the government to provide important support and reduces the capacity of the government to provide important support and services to communities due to the many competing needs at this time. Fortunately for us today, we have resource speakers who have expertise and experiences in managing our social welfare services. Using what they've already learned and created can save a lot of time and resources in dealing with the changes and challenges that we face. We hope that this webinar will be an effective exercise for sharing information. I sincerely hope that the lesson learned in this webinar will assist all of us as we pursue local government development. Before concluding, allow me to thank all of you for your interest in this webinar. I trust that you would find this exercise to be a rewarding experience. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon po muli sa ating lahat.
That was NCPAG's Dean, Professor Dan Sagil. Thank you, Dean. If you're only joining us this minute, this is Counting the Costs, CLRG's fourth webinar talk show on the policy issues arising from the Mandanas ruling. We would also like to welcome those joining us from our extended live streams in YouTube and in Facebook. In our previous episodes, we have been tracking the development of policies being released by the national government as it is gradually clarifying the implementation of Executive Order 138. In our most recent episode, we began zooming in to the sectoral concerns. Episode 3 was about the intertwined, transboundary, and interjurisdictional issues in environmental management and disaster management. Today, we will look into the policy issues in social welfare and development, a functional portfolio which has been under the microscope during the pandemic. #Ayuda. How is the DSWD, as well as our local governments, navigating the transition between what the DILG calls downscaling at the national level and upscaling at the local level? That shift from rowing to steering, where national agencies will step away from direct provision of devolved services and fully devolve these to LGUs. Joining us this afternoon is the Assistant Secretary for Policy and Plans of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, Assistant Secretary Joseline Niwane, and zooming in from Barcelona, Sorsogon is the Secretary General of the League of Municipalities of the Philippines, Mayor Cynthia Palcotero Cortez. Thank you, ASEC. Thank you, Mayor, for joining us, even at this very unsociable hour. Welcome po. So I guess we should get the ball rolling, and my first question would be for the Assistant Secretary Niwane. Ma'am, both national government agencies and LGUs are required to prepare their individual devolution transition plans. What has the DSWD done so far to accomplish its devolution transition plan?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon to Mayor and, of course, to all the other resource persons and to all our viewers and listeners. A pleasant good afternoon. Of course, the department has been looking into this the devolution transition plan even since last quarter of 2020. We have anticipated that there will be a lot of preparations to be done, considering that the Mandanas ruling was already signed. It was final and executory in 2019. And we all were aware that the next steps will really have to, the departments or the national government agencies has to devolve or transfer or cease from implementing some of its services and maybe programs. So since the last quarter of 2020, the department already started its plans. And in fact, in early this quarter, this year, we already had a roadmap set for the department. We have prioritized already activities so to smoothen the transition. And in February, we have to look into revisiting our vision and mission. And we had a workshop wherein we had to calibrate the vision and mission and functions of the department to be able to address the concerns or the impact of the Mandanas ruling this year. So this roadmap sets the department to prioritize activities ensuring smooth and efficient transition of programs to be devolved. Seeing the need to recalibrate the department's vision and mission, as we have to invite some of our former secretaries. In fact, Secretary Corazon Alma de Leon and Secretary Yanko to help us in the recrafting or maybe tweaking the vision and mission and functions. We also tried to come up now with a streamlining of our reorganizational structure. So we invited the former vice president also of CCP and our former director of the HR before the devolution of the first devolution. The reason why we have invited them is that we were aware and we know that they would bring in a lot of their experiences in Devolution 1, which was in 1991, 1992. So that was what we have done. And as of now, we are already starting to finalize our devolution transition plans. But prior to that, earlier also, we have discussed with the DBM, the ILG, our League of the ULAP, the League of Governors, League of Mayors, and I'm happy that our mayor is here. And of course, the League of Vice Mayors and the councilors, so that we will be able to get their opinion and their thoughts on how we will be able to do the transition smoothly. And at the same time, we discussed this also with our counterparts, the local social welfare offices from the province, cities, municipalities, to be able to get and to be able to be complementary with the devolution transition plan that they are also preparing. And I think up to now, we are still doing back and forth coordination with all of our stakeholders to ensure that before we submit the final DPT to DBM, it would have been at least we could say that we have the confidence that this is already more or less agreed upon by all stakeholders, and so that the implementation of the transition will be better than the first devolution in 1991 and 1992. So that is our hope that DBM and the ILG will help us in this. And of course, the transition committee will be able to help us in advocating for the transition plan that we are now finalizing. So that's how it looks as of this time.
Thank you for those updates, ma'am. You've mentioned that you were, as mandated by EO 138, you're selecting programs, projects, and activities which you will keep, which you will modify, and which you will have to let go. And what sort of criteria did you use to select those that are to be, say, defunded or discontinued or turned over to LGUs, and which to retain at the department?
Yeah, actually, we have to base it to the Section 17 of the local government code. We cannot devolve anything that is not in the local government code. So all that we are now redevolving, actually these are been devolved supposed to be, but along the line, the many years, the 30 years, some of these programs and services were again done, or the national government has implemented. So for this Devolution 2, we call it Devolution 2, we will be stopping or ceasing or discontinue some of our services. And these are particularly comprehensive project for street children, assistance to persons with disabilities, transition of all programs for the senior citizens or older persons to the National Council for Senior Citizens, because we all know that the NCSC has been approved through a law. So by 2022, we should already be transitioning all of the programs for senior citizens to them. So that include, of course, we will also have to stop or cease implementing supplementary feeding, and then first assistance to individuals in crisis situation. Though we will have to still do some services for the AICs, or the assistance to individuals in crisis situation, for the inter-regional and international and other highly complicated issues that we need to assist financially. And we will be also devolving the Sustainable Livelihood Program, Recovery and Reintegration Program for Trafficked Persons, and the Kalahi Seeds, or the CDD concept will have to be devolved also. But this will be done in phases. We will not devolve all of these 8 services at one time. It will be until 2024, because the EO 138 has given us a timeline that we could devolve all of the programs that we have already enrolled or services by 2024. So yun po.
So yeah, you mentioned that 3-year phased approach as stated in EO 138. So yung 8 programs that you have identified, ma'am, will those be all of them gradually phased through that 3-year period, or merong mauuna? What does that 3-year phased approach look like? Yeah.
Actually, for 2022, we will have this year, this 2022, as a preparatory year for our LGUs. So we will not be devolving any programs yet in 2022. The department will still implement most of these programs, but it will now be closely in coordination with our LGUs, so that they will be able now to look at how they will be able to implement it in 2023 and 2024. So by 2023, we will be devolving the comprehensive projects for street children. Of course, not all our LGUs have street children. So those only who have street children, they will be now accepting that program. They will now have to look into this program and put some funds in this program. Assistance to persons with disabilities will also be devolved already, or we will now stop our services to them in 2023. And of course, the transition of programs to the senior citizens will be in 2022. So yan lang po yung sa 2022 is yung transition of all programs for the older persons. The rest, until supplementary feeding, will be in 2023, but it will be scaled down because we will still have to cater to the 5th and 6th class municipalities and the PPAN areas that were identified. So we will start this in 2023. However, for AICs or assistance to individuals in crisis situation, sustainable livelihood and recovery and reintegration program for trafficked persons, they will be scaled down, including the Kalahi will be in 2024. So assistance to individual in crisis situation, sustainable livelihood, and Kalahi seeds will be in 2024. So we hope that by this time, before 2024 ends, our LGUs are already ready to receive and implement these programs properly. So we will be focusing on how to capacitate them, help them in planning on how this will be all done so that they would be ready by the time we transfer all of these services to them. Yun po.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, a follow-up question. Does that include does the full devolution include facilities that will be turned over? Or will local governments by 2024 would have to put up their own facilities and, by 2024 start programs completely on their own along those 4 activities that you have identified?
Yeah. For the senior citizens, it is in the law that once we will transition to them, it means that we will also transfer the centers to the senior citizens. However, for the other centers, like for the children, youth, the national government or the SWD will still be catering to them. So we will not be devolving these centers to the local government units, unless, of course, the local government units would request and they will assure that they will be able to sustain the centers.
I see. So that's possible, that they can also request for a takeover of a facility if they can afford it.
Yes. In fact, the centers for persons with disabilities, there are already some LGUs talking about or exploring on how to request these centers. We will welcome that.
Okay. So, we asked our participants to send in questions in advance. And here is one question that's related to what we have been talking about. And this participant is asking, what big ticket programs does the SWD plan to keep by 2024, which is still direct service provision and not ones that will be transferring to the sort of steering function?
Yes, thank you for that. Of course, we all know that we will have to retain the 4Ps or the Pantawid Filipino program because of the Republic Act 113110 or 11310 or the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino Program Act. So because of this law, the department will have to still implement directly this program. And of course, we will have to still implement the programs and services under the centers that we still are handling. So ito yung mga medyo malalaki na kailangan pang maiwan. Yes.
Okay, that's my question for ASEC for now. I'll return to you later. Let me bring in Mayor Fortes for this part of the interview. Good afternoon, Mayor Fortes.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ASEC.
I think, like us in CLRG, the League of Municipalities was waiting for the installment of policy issuances from national government. Diba? The EO, the final version of the EO was released around June, and then the IRR was towards the end of July. And in your interaction within the LMP and with ULAP, how far have LGUs progressed with digesting the directives of EO 138?
EO 138. Yes, actually the leagues are part of members of the Committee on Devolution. So from day one, the leagues are represented in the committee. on devolution.
Have you
Yes, sir.
Have you registered any reactions with the devolution committee on how they were setting up the criteria for picking which PPAs will be fully devolved?
We were in agreement that all basic services and facility is stated in Section 17 will be included, and there was never a dispute on that.
Let's zoom in on your municipality, ma'am, sa Barcelona. How far has your LGU prepared for your devolution transition plan?
Let me first touch on the other municipalities because I understand that, yes, sir, LCEs through an executive order have formally constituted their respective devolution transition committees. Here in Sorsogon, all LGUs are on deck for DILG's rollout on the preparation of DTPs, and LGUs were clustered, and a face-to-face workshop will happen on September 7, 8, and 9. That's the latest. But may I mention, sir, that LGUs here are well into the budget process.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Opo, in my case, Barcelona, budget hearing is set on September 10. And I was hoping that it would be helpful for LGUs to have NGA's DTPs on the table to make way for alignment of PPAs. Although I must confess that we took the liberty of using the list of devolved services and facilities annexed to the IRR of EO138, such that we were able to come up with programs and allocations should budget hearing proceed on the 10th.
Yes, ma'am. Yun nga yung aming concern with LGUs kasi by October dapat magsasubmit na ang local chief executive sa sanggunian ng budget po, di ba? So that the whole budget
po.
October 15 and
yes, sir.
And if you're still discussing PPAs that will be incorporated to the annual appropriation ordinance, baka ang concern nyo baka ma-delay yung inyong incorporation?
Yes. Oh, not exactly. That's why we took the liberty of using the annex of IRR of EO138 because it's a bit late. I don't think the NGA's DTPs would be cascaded or in time for our budget for the budget process to be completed. Budget legislation will have to happen within the time frame. Kaya medyo po parang huli na po para mag-depend kami doon. So we have been so creative, I guess, just to make use of whatever materials available to us.
Yes, ma'am. We understand that, and probably before the Mandanas ruling happened, there were already some projects in the LGUs that remained unimplemented due to the lack of funds or insufficiency of funds, and you're looking forward to implementing those projects as the funds from the Mandanas ruling would come. And then there's another set of PPAs that are coming from national agencies. Has the LMP taken a stand on that, in sort of balancing those two stimuli or sources of projects and programs?
Yun na nga po, with the IRR on EO138, ang LGUs were made aware kung ano po talaga ang made-devolve additionally. But actually, reading closely into those documents, sa totoo lang, wala hong masyadong bago except for those big programs like yung na-mention po ni ASEC, mga 4Ps, Kalahi. But Kalahi, we're doing Kalahi, sir. Although these are for selected LGUs only, but we are participating. There's a 60-40 equation there. 40% comes from LGUs and 60% from World Bank. So kung nakakasali naman po ang LGU dyan, kaya naman i-implement ang CLRG.
Okay. So right now, ma'am, you don't see any difficulty yet with incorporating because you sort of went ahead with ideas that you have read through the documents.
Basta po, the thing is, we wanted to align it to like we have, because like in my LGU, we have this current comprehensive CLUP, we have the CDP and the LDIP. So our AIP for 2022 will be aligned. And also, of course, we are aware of Ambition 2040. So
Yes,
ganun lang po, it's being proactive and creative a bit.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Let me bring in Asek Niwane again, ma'am. Hearing from what Mayor Fortes has said, that yung pagkakasync ng schedules of the discussions on paano ibababa yung mga PPAs from national government, and they're already proceeding with their own DTPs and going to the budget process already. Paano ho kaya maiihabol yung mga, at least for the DSWD, sabi niyo wala naman masyadong made-devolve for 2022. But then how does that fit into the planning now of both the NGAs and the LGUs?
Yes, thank you very much. The good mayor really expressed what is right. That's true that what we are devolving is actually not new. It is already there and they're actually doing it. It's just a matter of us at the central office, I mean the national office, to cease or discontinue the services of these programs. And it is true also that we have to fast track. In fact, we had just concluded our meeting with our regional directors on how to fast track this transition plans, because the LGUs are really also asking the transition plan of the national government. It just so happened that nagsabay-sabay yung transition planning ng LGUs and of course the NGAs, because of the EO came and the IRR was also came in a little bit late din. So pare-pareho kami ngayong nag-uumpisa na dapat ilatag lahat yung mga DPTs. However, for DSWD, we already decided on this kind of cascading our services that will be devolved. So medyo clear naman na. Ang hinihingi ng ating mga LGUs karamihan ngayon ay yung organizational structure, so that they could also fit in the personnel complement that they have to have, or they would request their Sanggunian and of course their LCE to consider. So ito po yung aming gagawin, and we hope that we will be able to already give this to our local government units within the month, and we hope that it will not go as far as end of the month, because we know that October 15 nga is the submission of our LCEs on their budget to the Sanggunian for their deliberation also. So that's what we're trying to do right now. We assured our regional directors earlier today that we will submit it to them within the week, next week. So they could already start cascading it to our local government units. So yun po ang fina-fast track namin ngayon. Alam namin na kailangan na talaga kasi budgeting time din.
Okay po, ma'am, you mentioned yung demand ng local governments on yung ma-clear yung organizational requirements ng full devolution. Based on your own department's report, there appears to be an inadequacy of social welfare officers in LGUs. 23% of all those LGUs have no social welfare officer at all, while 30% only have one, just the social welfare officer. How does this level of capacity of some LGUs affect the delivery of social welfare services, and how would this affect ultimately with more PPAs going to be devolved to them?
Yeah, that is actually when we had that findings, we had that mapping tool results. We were really a little bit aback because we know that we have lacking social workers, professional social workers. So we have to help our LGUs be capacitated, even if para social workers na lang yung ating ito-train. But we have to ask our LGUs to help us identify yung kanilang mga employees or workers so that we could already see how we will be able to help them, particularly in their capacities to implement all of these programs and services. So we have prepared the manual of operations for the services that will be devolved. We are already finalizing all of this, and we will share it now to the LGUs. We hope that this will be done within the quarter. And we have already scheduled another round of survey or study on what capacities our workers need on the ground. And we are now working also with our universities to encourage more social workers to enroll, to open these courses in their universities if they have not. And we are anticipating that there will be more students taking up a social work course in the coming years. However, as you said, this is already now. So what we can do now, right now, is really to capacitate our workers on the ground. And we have established now a institute who will be focusing on helping our interested local government people, regardless of profession, who would like to understand what are these services and how they will be implementing these services even without a license with them. For those who are licensed, we will help them to specialize through this institute of social welfare institute that we have. We will open hopefully by 2022. It's on the pipeline right now. It's being prepared. But because of the pandemic, we cannot yet open it. So we are converting our office for that, I mean the building, into a quarantine area as of now. But once cleared, then we could now open the this building for these kinds of capacity building activities. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the changing role of the DSWD now, from rowing to steering. You're now focusing more on training. And as I understand it, you cannot be appointed to a permanent social worker position unless you are licensed. And
Yes.
Unlike all the other positions in local government where if you only meet the minimum qualifications, you can be appointed to that. But you have to be a licensed social worker to be appointed to any permanent position.
Yeah, that is what we are advocating for, especially now that we are championing with the ASEAN social workers. There is the different ASEAN countries have already, and their ministers have signed that the social work profession has to be elevated. So that's what we are trying to do, advocating it now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ASEC. Let me go to Mayor Fortes, ma'am. Ma'am, the bulk of social welfare functions at the local level are at the cities and municipalities. What can you say about the readiness of municipalities in terms of the additional social welfare PPAs, which would now form part of the expected services to be delivered by the LGUs? You mentioned that earlier you were already doing it, but at this time, there are no longer any programs similar that are coming from national government.
When it comes to trabaho po, we know for a fact that hindi naman po hihindi ang LGUs. LGUs are a good bunch of soldiers, you know. But when it comes to additional human resource, with your indulgence, sir, and with the exception of those LGUs referenced by ASEC, we are far from coming up with an LMP recommendation on hiring would be displaced DSWD employees. Our censor is to give it to the LCEs to pick their staff. They should have that wide elbow room. Mukha pong ang localization principle is desirable when it comes to human resource. LGU is one, if not the biggest, labor-intensive operation in a locality. Ngayon pong pandemya, nakakapagbigay ng trabaho sa mga LSIs, ang LGU. I anticipate that in most cases, locals might be suitable fits for the job.
Okay. Ma'am, do you see any challenges that may impede the municipalities from successfully absorbing these additional social welfare functions?
One is the PS cap. It will take, yes, it will take a move from Congress, legislation to waive, to effect a waiver of the PS ceiling. So that's a limitation for one. And secondly, we'll have to defer to some LCEs who would rather have the elbow room to choose the complement of their LGU.
Mahirap nga ma'am yun, ano? May dagdag kang pondo pero hindi ka man makapag-hire ng tao, so you won't still be able to deliver the services that are required.
I actually po, sir, you know what, I'll be very candid. I take exception. I take exception sa ganun pong assumption. Kasi parang ang tingin, pag ganyan pong assumption, parang ang tingin sa LGUs hindi capable. Meron na tayo, you know, we don't assume bad faith. We always do assume a good faith. Hindi po ba? So ako naman ang tingin ko, nagsisipag naman ang mga LGUs. Hindi kailangang komot bagong trabaho. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need new people to do that. Sabi nga ni Ma'am Asek, capacitating yung mga currently employed employees can be done. Hindi kailangan social worker dahil talaga pong there is a limited population, number of people na licensed social worker. So ganun po, hindi kailangan kumuha ng mga panibagong kailangang pasweldohin ng matataas. Because to my mind po, it's antithetical to a streamlined bureaucracy. Hindi po ba the order of the day now is right sizing. We'll have to do right sizing to make the bureaucracy work smoothly, you know. So kung iwi-waive po natin ang PS cap, I'm sure po magbabalon po ang bureaucracy.
Have you heard, Ma'am, that the ABM is exploring to sort of waive the PS cap at least for 2022?
Yes, it's in the EO. It's in EO 138 po.
But I think, ma'am, the LGUs with their autonomy naman can either choose to not hire or hire additional people.
Exactly.
And thank you. Yes, exactly. And thank you for. Okay, ma'am. Additional observations, ma'am, from the World Bank. They said, with reaction to the full devolution mandate, that social services and social welfare at the local government level. This was from 2016 to 2019. The annual average share in we have heard the criticism that LGUs do not deserve this additional funding because they are underspending anyway. So, bakit daw kailangan bigyan pa ng additional na pera pero hindi naman magagastos? So, what's your reaction to that issue?
Yeah. You know what? There was an occasion where I shared online space with World Bank bosses. I mentioned that OMP hopes to align the Mandanas ruling to reality. We do not dispute the evidence showing underspending by some LGUs. But what I see as antidote is real-time monitoring of PPAs by the local chief executives. The seal of good local governance as a performance barometer is one effective tool. Why? Because SGLG requires LGU's full utilization of statutory funds or those local government code mandated allocations in their budget. Namely, ito po yung 20% development fund, the 5% GAD, Gender and Development, the 5% LDRRM fund, at saka po yung innocuous but substantial 1% for the local council for the protection of children. But again, contextualization of LGUs has to be alive here. Mahirap naman po na pare-pareho ang criteria for all LGUs in the SGLG. Like example po, concrete example, the SGLG requirement of having a sanitary landfill, the cost of building and operating and maintaining a sanitary landfill runs to millions of pesos, even much bigger than the total local development fund of a fifth-class municipality. Kaya po, that pauper fifth-class municipality, no doubt, is handicapped from the very beginning. Medyo ouch nga po. Medyo masakit kasi ang tawag ay lagging, nahuhuli. So, but you know, SGLG chance is close to zero sa mga ganong LGU po. And mind you, as legislated, the SGLG criteria is all in. Ang isang LGU po, 10 po ang criteria. Lahat po dapat masunod. Lahat na yon. Otherwise, wala kang SGLG. Walang performance-based or measurable assessment ang LGU mo. So, again, sabi ko nga po, contextualization of LGUs has to be alive here in the interest of fair play po. And if I must say, equity and justice for LGUs. They deserve it too.
Thank you, Mayor. Is that an appeal to the ILG to further refine the parameters for the SGLG? And are you expecting that it will be changed for 2022 because of the full devolution?
The SGLG has been legislated. Batas na po eh. So it will take an amendment of the law to be able to do that. But if the DILG would open its heart, you know, handicap municipalities, why not? It would be most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That was a very, very important insight. And we've always wanted to resurface that because that's also our observation that the parameters aren't nuanced according to the different types of LGUs. And we would note that as particularly coming from the stakeholders, the local governments themselves.
Thank you, sir. Level the playing field. That's what we need.
Yes. Let me go back to ASEC Niwane. ASEC, for fiscal year 2021, the DSWD is ranked the 6th highest funded agency, forming about 4% of the annual budget. How much has been the reduction in the department's budget due to the adjustments under the Mandanas ruling?
Sorry, nakamute pala. Are we comparing 2022 and 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
We cannot inform you about 2022 because ongoing pa ang budget hearing. So I'm sorry, I will not be able to answer that. Though we have
Malaki ba? Malaki.
already a, hindi naman.
Okay,
Actually, yeah. Actually, kaya nga pareho pa rin yung aming services for 2022. In fact, if all will go well with our legislators, then the NEP that was given to the DSWD is higher than 2021.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
So with the current situation of the pandemic, ma'am, we assume that the dynamic conditions will continue until next year and even before that, kasi sabi nga ni Secretary Duque, baka daw hanggang 2023 pa. So does the devolution transition plan include any guidelines on how LGUs will sort of, plan their spending for at least for the social welfare PPAs?
That is of course the purview of our LGUs. They, as Mayor have said, they have the local financial autonomy, and as well as their how they would prioritize things. So what our department is only doing right now is really advocating to our LCEs and our LGUs to consider absorbing or strengthening, because as Mayor said, most of these are not new. They're already actually implementing them on the ground. So it's just a matter of strengthening it, maybe expanding it so to accommodate more clients or provide better services with the funds that they will be getting from the Mandanas ruling. So, but the prioritization of programs and services will be done solely by our local government units. For the SGLG indicators, there will be changes for indicators in 2022 to look into the absorption of these programs. So definitely, the indicators will change in 2022. And we hope that we will look into the playing field, as ma'am said, to see to it that there will be a fair play. And we will try to look into this through not necessarily changing because it's already a law, but it will be done through the indicators. What indicators are needed for a fourth class, fifth class, first class, those things will be taken into consideration. In fact, it was already taken into consideration for this year, so 2020. However, it was suspended. So, due to the pandemic. Yun po. So, maraming salamat.
ASEC, I could recall that the EO said that baka yung mga higher income class would be expected to have these PPAs on a much more quicker timeline than those who are less financially capable. But what if one of those LGUs would say, hindi namin kaya by 2024? What does the DSWD do?
We still have programs for resource augmentation. However, in fact, that will retain. We will not be devolving resource augmentation for us. We will still be doing this to help our LGUs who are really in need. But we will now have stricter parameters on how to provide the resource augmentation. Or if it is not from the GAA, then we will be helping our LGUs to maybe help them look for other funding institutions like development partners. So yun po yung pwede namin gawin. And nandun din naman, if that is not also enough, I think the EO 138 also states that there will be a growth equity fund that will be provided to our really LGUs who would be hard up in coping. And probably this will be the 5th to 6th class municipalities who will be prioritized. So ito po yung mga maiiwan pa rin naman ito sa national government. And as I said, the DSWD will still have its resource augmentation program. But it will not be already as with different parameters. We are actually on this finalizing what kind of parameters we will have to use to be able to provide resource augmentation to our LGUs who really would need it. Because even if they are first class, if they have packets of poverty and they cannot still meet, those are the things that we have to look into.
Okay, ma'am, you mentioned senior citizens, and you also said that there is a newly created National Commission for Senior Citizens. So how does this impact now the delivery of services for our senior citizens?
The senior citizens programs and services will still continue. However, the administration and the supervision will now be done by the National Commission. This is a unique commission because they are not only an oversight, they're also implementing. Most of the commissions are usually oversight, but for the NCSC, they have this implementation function. So that's the reason why we will have to transition all of the programs and services for older persons to this commission, and they will be the one now to implement it on the ground. So they have to hire people, and we hope that they will consider, just like our local government units, they could consider hiring our people since they have already been trained, and it would not be hard for them. But of course, in the end, it is still the commission who would be deciding who will be hired, just like our local government units. All we can do is advocate and social marketing talaga ngayon ang aming trabaho.
Ma'am, is the commission separate from the DSWD already? Or is it an attached agency?
That is what they are still looking into. MOA will be penned probably by this month. And we will see how it will look like. We are not yet sure if they are still in the final stage of how the NCSC will look like. If they will be directly under the president or they would be attached agency to the DSWD.
Okay. Ma'am, you also mentioned 4Ps will be retained, but since this has already been institutionalized last 2019, how does the DSWD as its main implementer look into sort of strengthening that in spite of sabi nyo hindi naman marireduce yung inyong funding, pero does it affect the 4Ps program in any way?
No, the 4Ps will be retained. We will have to strengthen its programs though. Its monitoring will be more strict because in the law, we will only be given 7 years to ensure that the family will be able to graduate. So, medyo ngayon, mas strict ang ating pag-monitor sa kanila dahil after 7 years, kailangan graduated na sila. In other words, they could already be out of the payroll, quote unquote, and they should already be able to survive on their own. They should already be in level 3 because we have 3 levels. We have the survival, we have the subsistence, and we have the self-sufficient. So we hope that by the 7th year, they will already be self-sufficient. In fact, we will be we have now graduated 800,000 plus, and we are hoping to graduate in 2022 1 million. So and then meaning we will have to, since it's still 4.4, we will have to look for the other new poor that are arising due to this pandemic. But this will now be based on the listahanan 3 that we have just concluded, but still to be analyzed. So probably we can have this new listahanan 3 or where the poor are, or who are the poor, probably early next year.
Okay,
you.
thank you, ASEC. Let me bring in Mayor Fortes. Mayor, local governments sort of have a love-hate relationship with the four-piece program, especially nung unang ni-roll out siya. And natatawa si ASEC, parang yung selection nung medyo magulo yung selection ng beneficiaries. Do you think that the implementation of the four-piece should also be sort of devolved to the LGUs, or what do you think the role of LGUs should be in the four-piece program?
When it comes to profiling, maybe the LGUs, particularly barangay, the barangay at the barangay level, they would be of big help because we know better than the surveyors or enumerators employed by the SWD. So in the context of profiling the potential beneficiaries, then maybe the LGUs can be of big help. But in the context of funding four-piece, no way. Like like in Barcelona, there are 1,688 four-piece active beneficiaries. At ang natatanggap po nila tuwing 2 buwan is 9,621 po. At kung susumahin po for the whole year, 57,729,600. Kaya hindi po talaga carry, sir.
konting financial stress, ma'am, pag sosolohin ng LGU. Okay, ASEC, during disasters, the SWD is very visible in the response and recovery stages with the programs like the emergency cash transfer and the in-kind assistance during emergencies. Will this change given the full devolution mandates of the Mandanas ruling?
Yeah, it will not change if it's just the Mandanas ruling. What will change is that when the Department of Disaster Management will be established, the nucleus will be partly come from the SWD. So our cluster on disaster management will now be transferred to or transition to this new department. If this new department will be established. Therefore, we will no longer have much to do on this aspect except for helping in the first aid, psychosocial first aid. We could still be there, and other grievances. But on the big portion of distributing goods or really going to the evacuation centers, medyo mawawala na yun talaga. It will now be under the Department of Disaster Resilience. And anyway, our people will automatically be transferred there. So the training is still the same. So they will be the one implementing that.
Marami po pala kayong ililipat, ano?
Oo, marami. Kaya liliit kami.
Okay, I think that's all from me for now. I think it's time to take questions from our audience. Let me bring in my colleague, Mr. Prejan Prieto, who has been patiently waiting in the chat boxes, monitoring our questions and interactions. Sir Prej, do we have questions already for Assistant Secretary Niwane or Mayor Fortes?
Yeah, yes, we have, Sir Pang. No? But first of all, I would like to express really my gratitude to both our resource persons. No? And also the discussions here are really good and straightforward, and we like what this kita pa rin natin yung sinasabing love and hate relationship, sabi ni Sir Peng, no? And actually we here in the CLRG, of course, we are the Center for Local and Regional Governance, no? Na we of course believe on the capacity of the LGUs, but sometimes we have to play the devil's advocate to surface these things, no? And thank you kay Mayor for really having that conviction to say that we can do this. We LGUs are capable of doing this, and of course, but of of course, recognizing the fact also that there are some LGUs who really need some assistance in different aspects also. Yes, from our chat box here, we have a question, and I think this is for ASEC ni Juan, no? Medyo forward-looking yung tanong po kasi nabanggit nyo nga na by 2024, marami na sa mga services ay malilipat na sa local governments. So ang question niyo is, meron na daw po ba kayong na-forecast na possible appropriations na requirement or possible appropriations requirement ng DSWD after 2024, no? Meron ba tayong na-expect na substantial decline? Given that merong madidilis na mga malaking programa, and also baka magkaroon ng Department of Disaster Management na ililipat din yung ilang functions doon?
Yes, sir. Actually, yeah, that is expected. With the Mandanas ruling itself, the LGUs will now be richer than the national government. So that is how it will look like. Automatically, we will really have to reduce funds. What is constant will be for the 4Ps because given na siya. Yung ibang aspeto, on the other portions nito, we will have to really work for this, that they will still be funded. Yun yung nakikita namin na bababa talaga siya. It will be a significant decrease. And that means even the personnel will also have to decrease in number. So, mas streamline na talaga kami.
So, streamlining talaga ang magiging issue and because of these different services na mapupunta nga sa local gov and not just local gov but other agencies, no? So far, some of the questions asked in our registration were already asked in the main discussions earlier, because what we do is we really pull questions from our audiences and then isinasama po namin sa aming discussion. But I think I could find some more questions here, no? Let me just check. Unless I'm not sure kung meron pa iba pong question from the chat box, or if anyone po from the audience who would like to ask their questions on camera, you can always raise your hand and join us in this discussion. Anyone?
Sure.
You can yes po.
May I?
Meron po kaya
Sir.
Yes, of course, po, Mayor.
While ASEC is here, this is one crucial, very important point, because I've been going over the policy agenda, and one of the themes in the policy agenda is advancing social equity and justice. And I guess it's proper to take up the issue of inclusivity. Kung maalala nyo po, ASEC, yung SAP, nung kasagsagan ng lockdown natin, yung ECQ. Yung SAP po, the department has a peculiar definition of what a family is. Medyo kasi naging source ho yun ng controversy because as defined there during the implementation of SAP, a family should consist of a mother, father, and child. So, ang nangyari, left out po yung mga grandparent na may alagang apo. Pero nag-iisa din sa bahay, may own household sila. And also, those unmarried persons. So left out po sila. Because using the definition of what a family is under the program. Also, a point of concern is that marami po tayong different administrative data system. Officially, we have the PSA. PSA po na medyo there is, if we still have, can I continue, sir? Because
yes, of course.
Pagdating dito sa NATA, initially yung indicative NATA namin under LBM 82 Na-compute po yon based on PSA population census in 2015. Nagkaroon ho ng approval, nagbatas tayo sa PSA 2020 census, population census, so they had to amend it. Nagkaroon tayo ng DBM-LBM 82-A. And the computation now is based on 2020 population census. Believe it or not, sir, yung sa Barcelona po, nagbawas po between the period, the 5-year period, nabawasan po ng tao ang aking bayan na tatlo po, 3 persons. 3 persons. Pero maniwala po kayo, ang nabawas sa NATA po is 4,048,000. Yon, that I cannot,
Wow.
I cannot fathom. But anyway, it's already there. Yun nga, marami pang ibang administrative data system like listahanan. Ano kaya ang definition ng family there? Also sa fourth piece. Kaya siguro po it's a point that might be looked into for purposes of this transition plans po. Thank you, sir.
Let's ask Asik Niwane to respond to
Yes.
that. Ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. Yeah, I understand what our good mayor is saying. Yes, kahit kami actually, ma'am, sa definition ng family, we have been discussing this, but what happened was that in the end, they have to follow what was written on the family code, which is the definition of a family. So, kahit na nagsasabi kami, paano? Ibig sabihin, paano yung family nga? Sinabi ni Ma'am Mayor kanina na, paano pag nasa lola? Paano pag solo parent? Hindi ba yung family? So, but then, it so happened, ma'am, na in the end, aming mga lawyers dito, sabi nila, it's in the law. So I hope the law will be changed and really we will have to change the definition of a family. But we are, yes ma'am, for the DSWD, if it's, that's why we always promote supposed to be inclusivity. But for the SAP in the first tranche, that SAP 1, talaga pong naging ganon yung definition at natuto naman po tayo din kasi on the other SAP2 and the succeeding financial assistance, we already included the individuals, senior citizens, solo parents, ganon na po yung nangyari. Kasi po, kaya po sa amin sa 4-piece households po ang ginamit. Hindi po families. Kasi po yung household nga po, it may contain walang father, mother, but it has lola, anak, pamangkin, extended. So it's a household. Pero nga, yun po, that created more confusion in the SAP 1 and we have to correct it in the succeeding tranches of the financial assistance. So we hope na clear na lahat yun. And then for the PSA, totoo po yung until now, syempre wala pa kasi yung ating national ID system. So hopefully, if the ID system will already be saturated, it would, and we could already be able to say that we have, everyone is already accounted for, then it will be very easy for us in relation to the listahanan. It will be easier for us to identify where the poor are, though the listahanan po is also following the household targeting system, not family, to make it more inclusive po.
And there's another one, ma'am. Batas na rin po yung ating CBMS. Di ba ho?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, because of that definition po ng family na maaaring, definitely because it's in the law, gagamitin pa rin yan in the future. So we will still have the same confusion na paulit-ulit.
Problem.
And yes. And given that po, will the DSWD take an active stance like lobby for the changing of that definition in the policy para once and for all maayos natin yon?
Yeah, we tried, but it needs, I think, really a lot of support from the academe. If you could help us there to lobby to our legislators to sponsor the amendment of those definitions, we will really ensure you that we will be beside you and we will champion this and we'll put this as our policy agenda.
Okay.
Yun po. Yung CBMS po naman, I think the PSA will start already the pilot testing of the CBMS this 2022. It will now be done. So we hope that the CBMS will be able to handle also the listahanan. All we will do now, because we will no longer be doing listahanan. This is the last listahanan activity that the department will be doing because of the CBMS that is already a law, and it will subsume now the functions that the NHTO is doing, except that we will just be already analyzing the list that will be coming from the CBMS. So wala na pong magiging listahanan 4. Listahanan 3 will be the last po. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, another question po, baka masagot na, it is going mas mababa sa level ng munisipyo, yung barangay, yung tinatanong ni Ma'am Madeline Kayanan from Puerto Princesa City, no? Paano ba yung appropriations sa barangay, especially para dun sa mga services na ipoprovide nila, na kumbaga may standards kasi tayo na dapat sundin. Ang kanyang tanong is in relation to the daycare services.
Since I don't know if it's Mayor will answer or kami.
Magkakaroon din po kasi ng barangay, di ba po, magkakaroon din po ng DTP ang barangay.
Yes.
Si Ma'am po, ipagpagtuloy natin.
Tama po yun, ma'am. So, meron din silang DPT, simpler nga lang kesa sa municipal and cities, but this will also show to us how they will be looking into the transition of this devolved programs. But for daycare per se, this is already a devolved service. And the LGUs, particularly our barangay, are the ones really implementing this, assisted by our municipal and city and provincial level. So, since tataas din po yung kanilang IRA, yun po din yung titignan nila if pwede nilang i-prioritize yung services for daycare. Labi pa rin po. Kasi in the end nga po, our LGUs have the fiscal autonomy. But kaya nga po sinabi ko kanina, ang aming trabaho ngayon hanggang sa matapos ang 2024 ay social marketing. Yun po ang aming tatahakin so that we could be able to, and we are happy that our LMP is here with us, Mayor, so that she will help us champion the basic services for our people. Maraming salamat. I'm taking the opportunity to sell. Thank you.
It's a good thing pala na pinagtagpo po natin ng DSWD at LMP in this forum. Ano. We have another question from the chat po na if I may read. No? This is from Councilor Japheth Grace Moleta of Niagaw, Iloilo. Sabi niya po, I would like to ask for some suggested mechanisms that can be done in doing the real-time monitoring of the PPAs. And I would also like to clarify with ASEC Niwane if we have a new definition for children in street situations, because I was informed that they are not necessarily found in urban areas, but it can be applicable for children who are on the streets most of the time. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I was asking kung ano yung last na children in street. Is that it? Street situation?
Children in street situations.
So these are the street children. Or are we defining a different...
Base po dito is
Pareho ba
This is
yun?
a new definition. This is a new definition ng pagkakasabi ni Councilor. Councilor Moleta, if it's possible for you to express the question on cam, possible po ba so that you can put more context to the question? Councilor Japheth? Yes po. Please open your Councilor Japheth, your mic and video, and you can ask the question. Okay, para mas malinaw kay ASEC.
Yes, good afternoon po, Asik Niwane. Kasi we were informed that yung tinatawag natin na street children noon, parang it was changed yata yung term into children in street situations, and sabi nila they're not necessarily those found on the streets. No, kasi sa amin we are not in the urban areas, pero baka pwede po na possible na meron din kaming children in street situations.
Sir, may I?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Councilor. Actually, yung category, I think, pareho pa rin na comprehensive program for street children ang tawag namin. Though there are 3 categories of street children. So, yung pong iba kasi yung category na they go out, whether you are in an urban or a rural area, they go out and then stay outside for the whole day. For until what time, but still goes home. Isang category po siya. Yung second category is that they go out, stay outside for days, but still goes home once in a while. Yung pong pinaka-hardcore is yung street children na talagang hindi na umuuwi. So, it does not necessarily really state na yung mga children will be children on the streets, or maybe children in street situations are just urban or rural. Pero kasi ma'am, yung karamihan nga lang is mas marami po yung children sa urban areas. But it does not mean that wala pong mga children in any category na nasa rural areas din po. So, meron pa rin siyang program. These are called the children at risk. Ito po yung tawag natin sa kanila. Yung mga nasa streets, naka-urban man o hindi, they're all children at risk. So, yes po. May program po for that, whether they are in urban or rural.
Thank you so much.
Asek Niwane, no? Thank you, Asek Niwane. Even I myself, na-enlightened ako na meron palang spectrum. Nasa spectrum palang definitions ng ating street children. Ito po, I have another question. This may be the last in the interest of time. We have here a question actually from my colleague, Ms. Michelle Castillo, that sent directly to me. Gusto niya malaman yung social welfare programs targeting GIDA, no? Especially yung areas affected by conflict. Magpapatuloy ba yung assistance ng DSWD given that probably their capacities may be relatively lower than other LGUs?
Yeah. Actually, yung programs for GIDA areas, sila actually yung matitira pa. Kunyari, yung supplementary feeding, they will be prioritized na hindi pa siya ma-devolve kaagad. Pero yung ibang programs, they will still be implemented, supposed to be for sa GIDA areas. Priority po yung mga GIDA areas. Ito yung mga dapat bigyan ng mga growth equity fund na separate from the Mandanas funds that will be given to the local government units. That will be handled by the national government. And for the PAMANA or the LCAC, for the conflict areas, will still be in place. On the budget, for 2022, we have no problem yet. If our good legislators from the Senate and of course from the House will be kind enough to approve all our proposals, then this will continue until 2022. For 2023, 2024, we will still have to look for it. But for LCAC itself is really local government naman yun. augmentation lang ang ating national government.
Okay. Thank you, Asek. I think that would be all from the for the questions from the audience. So I'll bring back up to Sir Rafael, no? Sir Ralph.
I think there's another question, and maybe I should read it out.
Yes,
it's more of a
please.
general question, maybe for both for Asek and for Mayor. This is a question from Councilor Gemma Nulada from Miyagang. Sabi niya, how could we maximize the function of social services departments in our LGU if we only have limited resources in spite of the bandana siguro, resources and funding, especially during COVID-19 without compromising other social programs. And siguro po ikakabit ko na rin yung aming naging study a few years back na even po yung funding for the PWD and the senior citizens parang either hinahati siya or nagko-compete sila. So paano po, how do we navigate? Anong pwede po maging tips ninyo for that concern? We'll go first po, si Asek or si Mayor?
I go first, sir. If I may ask si Councilor,
Yes,
ano hong income class ng munisipyo nila?
Miyag-aw.
Mm-mm.
Mga kayang income class.
Anyway, kasi for context po, itong
Opo.
nag-uusapang Mandanas-Garcia Ruling, like for a fifth class municipality, ako po, I'm speaking for myself, for Barcelona, you know, there is just an uptick in NATA for 2022. It's only 31 million. Pag hinati-hati na po, 6.2 million goes to 20% development fund, 6.4 million goes to 5% MDRRM fund, then another 5% to GOD, then 1% to LCPC, and the biggest, 10 million goes to PS cost. Konti lang po talaga ang the share in the pie. That's why, kaya Councilor po, it would really depend on the income class of your LGU.
First class daw ma'am sila, so baka mas may legroom sila.
Yeah, no worries. There's a lot, a wide elbow room for you.
Si Asek, may tips po ba kayo, Asek? How does the SWD do it with so many portfolios within your department? Nakamute yan.
Asek, parang nakamute po, Asek ni Wane.
Nakamute po yan.
Sorry. I understand where our legislators and our LCEs are coming from. I've been with the local government unit for so long. And it's really, tama po yung sinabi ni Mayor na depende yan sa kanilang class at kung magkano talaga yung makukuha nilang IRA or NTA. Pero I think it still has to be yung priority po talaga. Everything naman is scarce. All funds are scarce. But if we can put some money on more on people, kasi yun po yung concern natin, yung people, sana lagyan mang mas maraming pondo. Yung sinabi ni ma'am kanina na meron naman talagang mandatory na 5% sa GOD. So, pwede naman din mag-usap-usap sana yung mga lahat ng mga ating yung finance committee plus our concerned local officials to discuss on how to see to it na all of the programs could be given a fair share and that there will be prioritizing the benefit of our people, especially this pandemic that ang kailangan po natin ngayon, pagkain talaga, trabaho at yun po yung number one. So alam po ng ating mga local officials which is very important and that's where they are putting their funds. So I pray na the wisdom will be given to them kasi alam ko na they will look at the totality, yung holistic. Hindi lang pwede na ito ang dapat pondohan, ito ang dapat lang pondohan. Pero sana Ang hinihiling ko lang dito sa aming sa DSWD is that we will put more focus sana sa benefit ng ating mga tao. People-centered lang sana. Yun yung nakikita ko. Once na we look at the people as the primary, then I think decision-making would be easier because they will look into the real needs of our people. Yun lang ang pwede ko masabi. Though I am selling our programs, that they will be appreciated and they will be given also consideration in the prioritization of funding in the local government units because this is all for our people. So yun lang. Maraming salamat. Thank you, Mayor. We will contact you. Kayo po aming champion. Salamat po.
Yes.
Okay, Sir Prej, are there any questions left? May humabol na ba or wala?
I think that would be all, Sir Paeng, no? And we are right on time. Alas tres, we will be having a few extension, so maybe.
Okay, if that is the last question, let's have a quick wrap up from our director at CLRG, Professor Alice Celestino.
Okay, sorry, nakamute pala ako. Okay na ba? Nadidinig niyo ako?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Paeng. So naka-4 webinars na tayo. So I think parang lumilinaw naman ang ating mga diskusyon, di ba? May mga detalye na tayong nakukuha. Like for instance, ngayon, we focus on the social welfare. So in closing, I would just like to express first our sincere gratitude to Mayor Cynthia Fortes of Barcelona, Sorsogon, and Sec Jocelyn Niwani for finding time to be with us in this webinar. We know that you have a lot of commitments, but you included us in your schedule. We are happy about that. Thank you so much for unselfishly sharing your time and insights and updates on the full devolution. I am sure that your inputs indeed clarified some gray areas in the social welfare services sector and perhaps allayed some fears experienced by our frontliners, the LGUs. It is indeed a very informative, enlightening, and fruitful session for all of us. Okay, so thank you again, Sec Jocelyn, for sharing with us the preparations that the SW is doing in producing your devolution transition plan, like for instance, revisiting your vision mission to address the impact of the Mandanas ruling, preparing a roadmap for the transition, consulting with your local partners and stakeholders, among others. You also gave us information on what PPAs you're going to let go and what PPAs you're going to keep, as well as the staggered implementation of the devolution transition. So you said that for 2022, you're giving this year for the LGUs to prepare. Walang substantial transfer of functions yet kasi you are giving them a chance to prepare, but you will be implementing the services that you will be devolving in close coordination with the LGUs. In 2023, some of the devolved programs that you are going to let go are the comprehensive program for street children, assistance for PWD, supplemental feeding in 2024, the Kalahi seeds, etc., etc. But you made it clear that you are going to keep the big ticket program like the 4Ps kasi you are primarily in charge of the implementation of RA 113-110. Okay? For Mayor Cortez, maraming salamat po, Mayor, for voicing out the side of the LGUs and presenting some suggestions to be considered by the devolving national government agencies. We are happy to note that the LGUs are quite proactive in preparing for the transition since without the clear devolution transition plans yet, the LGUs are now preparing their budgets based on Section 17 of the code and based on the implementing rules and regulations of EO 138. As an advocate of local autonomy, the mayor also suggested that LCE should be given the leeway to choose or to hire relevant staff who will perform the devolved functions. In addition, Mayor also pointed out some tools that could be used to monitor the smooth devolution transition like the SGLG, the close monitoring of the utilization of the 20% development fund, the GAD fund, etc., to ensure that underspending by the LGUs will be avoided, among others. So, madami pa tayong na-discuss this afternoon, and these are some snippets of the session. And I'm also happy to note that DSWD, in keeping with its new steering role, will be establishing a social welfare institute to capacitate LGU people who are interested in social work. We all know for a fact that there is a dearth of professional social welfare officers, and hence there is really a need to capacitate non-professionals to enable them perform social welfare or development services. There are many questions raised and were answered by our resource persons, and there are questions that cannot be answered now, but we hope that as we go about the redevolution journey, all this will be addressed. So funding remains a big challenge. So prioritization of PPAs is really a must. For the second round of devolution, the DBM is establishing an equalization fund known as the Growth Equity Fund for the low-income class LGUs. This is a distinguishing feature of this second round of devolution. Yung unang devolution natin, pare-pareho yan. Walang special fund for LGUs that belong to the low-income class. Pero ngayon, merong Growth Equity Fund. So we pin our hopes for the low-income class LGUs, we pin our hopes that we will get additional funding from this Growth Equity Fund. So I would also like to thank all the participants who attended this seminar, this webinar. I hope that you will continue participating in our webinars. We have some more in the pipeline for the remaining months of the year. Meron pa kaming mga webinars dito sa concerning the Mandanas ruling. So maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And I hope that we all had a very fruitful discussion this afternoon. So back to you, Paeng.
Thank you, Prof. Alice. That is our director, Professor Alice Celestino. Our director is the person behind all the encouragement for us to continue improving our content for this webinar series as a hand-holding public service to local governments and stakeholders as we navigate this devolution transition process together. I would also like to thank my colleagues who have been working in the background from our makeshift studios and control rooms from various places in Luzon as we continue to work from home. And that's all the time we have today. But before we say goodbye to our viewers in YouTube and Facebook, may I ask everyone to turn on their cameras so we can smile at each other virtually and take that Zoomfy. Hindi na siya selfie, Zoomfy na. So let's take a picture together. My colleagues will cue us in when they are taking our photos. Okay? So has everybody now opened their cameras?
Okay, everyone, for those that want to participate in the picture taking, please open your cameras right now. So we may take your pictures. Okay, sa lahat po ng gusto ng picture, pabukas lang po ang inyong camera. Okay, so ready? 1, 2, magayos na po ng buhok. 3, smile. Dali lang po. Please hold that wonderful smile habang tinetake ko po yung mga picture ninyo. Sandali lang po para wala akong ma-miss. Ready? Okay, isa pa po. 1, 2, 3. Pawaki. Wow, yung isang may 3 tao. So, sadali lang po. 1, 2, 3. Okay, sige po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay,
you.
thank you to both our panelists for this afternoon. Thank you, participants. That is all from me and our team. Please take note of the reminders and requirements for those who will be seeking e-certification. Join us again this coming October, as said by Professor Celestino. We have some more in the pipeline as the policy issues continue to unfold from the Mandanas ruling. And we will be here to count the costs. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.
May check mo po. Alam check.